Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Night of the Living Dead on TNT.
This is hell on earth. This is pure hell on earth. One of Ben's great lines. Remember, there's only one way to kill the zombies. Bullet through the brain. My kind of flick. I'm loving this. Roll this flick. See, that's how you kill zombies in George Romero flicks. Remember? All right, remember how you kill them in Sam Raimi flicks? Total dismemberment. Arms, legs, head, everything. Because bullet through the brain had already been done. And we were moving on in the evolution of zombie death concepts. Return of the Living Dead, nuclear annihilation. Return of the Living Dead 2, electrocution. Doesn't make sense, does it? They regressed. Personally, I like the old bullet to the brain. I'm just old-fashioned that way. Don't you just hate Cooper? You know, you just despise him from the first moment he shows up, don't you? That actor is Tom Towles, who is well known for his performance in Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, where he was equally obnoxious, but he's bad. Okay, it's time. We're approaching optimal zombie action here. Zombie-rama, zombie jubilee. When the dead rise, Monstervision fans unite. They are on the way. I love this part. I'm just feeling like a giddy schoolgirl tonight. You know, I should be wearing a prom dress. I feel so good. Maybe not. You know, no, not a prom. It reminds me of those guys in New Orleans, you know. Did you see those guys when I was down there for the Super Bowl, those guys in New Orleans? Sequin dresses, high heels, purses, and 5 o'clock shadow. And they all wanted my autograph. You don't think I'm coming one of those camp deals, do you? Like Liza Minnelli, Cheetah Rivera, Cher, you know? If I did wear a dress, you think I could get booked into Atlantic City?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Night of the Living Dead on TNT.
You're losing it, girl. You are losing it!
You think so?
All right, Barbara. Once she gets started with zombies, she just can't help herself, can she? She's like a zombie junkie, pumping bullets through those brains fast as she can. And that actress, in case you don't know, is Patricia Tallman, who did mostly TV roles before this. Very impressive performance, in my opinion. All right, in fact, Patricia's on Babylon 5, that syndicated series, coming to TNT in January. And TNT's going to make some original movies with her, so... All right, more zombies. Bring more zombies. There's no way these zombies can defeat this woman. And Patricia, if you're watching, you know, I'm currently in flagrante el single, if you know what I mean, and I think you do, so... Because, you know, she's got that Linda Hamilton kind of thing going for her. Yummy. Woo.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Night of the Living Dead on TNT.
Okay, let's review the situation here. The truck is exploded. The gas pump is exploded. We've got 2 dead teenagers. We've still got Ben out in the yard trying to kung fu massive numbers of zombies. Helen is in the cellar having her neck chomped by her zombie daughter. And Cooper is about to get possession of the rifle. We're talking spam in a cabin, am I right? Man, oh man. All right, heading for zombie Armageddon here. Roll it. I like to use that word, Armageddon. Makes people believe that I know what that word means. Oh, yeah, we're talking Armageddon. Legageddon, too. Arm and Legageddon.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Night of the Living Dead on TNT.
That last scene was my favorite part of the whole movie. Ben, all alone in the cellar, has that cigarette, and all he can do finally is laugh. And then he finds the keys to the gas tank. Great scene. Tom Savini directed this sucker. Good job, Tom. Now we're headed for the conclusion where Tom changes the ending from the first movie, but in a way you are never going to guess. So watch this. You know what I've never seen in a Night of the Living Dead movie? Amish zombie. They're in rural Pennsylvania, right? There had to be some out there. I mean, they got changed just like everybody else. What would they do? They'd probably just eat flesh within the family unit. Right?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Night of the Living Dead on TNT.
you can't top Night of the Living Dead, you know. Back in the 80s, I conducted a poll of all the drive-in movie fans in America as to what was the greatest drive-in movie ever made, and they voted for Night of the Living Dead, the original 1968 version, of course. My own personal favorite is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Saw is still the king, in my opinion, although I will admit Night of the Living Dead is the finest movie ever made in Pittsburgh. So, some of you may remember back in 1992 when I was on the Movie Channel, I had a reunion of the original cast of the original movie, and they were delighted because for most of them that was the highlight of their acting careers. Most of them weren't even in acting anymore. One of them was a chiropractor in North Carolina, and Tom Savini was there too, and he told me he wished he'd had a few more days and a little more money for the remake because he didn't get to do all the effects he wanted to do. But I say, don't worry about it, Tom. You done good. So next week, remember, we're starting off with Frankenstein, the great TNT version with Randy Quaid as the monster. And then we've got one of my favorite Jerry Lewis comedies, The Nutty Professor. I like Jerry Lewis, you know. Don't execute me right now. It's too late at night. But I like Jerry. And that's it for me, Joe Bob Briggs. Did you guys hear about the kid who applied for a salesman's job at a department store? Well, the boss said to him, "You ever been a salesman before?" And he said, "Yeah, I was a salesman out in the country." And so the boss kind of liked the kid, so he said, okay, he could start the next day. And at the end of the day, the boss said, "I'm going to come in and see how you did." So the next day, 5 o'clock rolls around, and the boss shows up to check out the new kid. And he says, "Well, how many sales did you make today?" And the kid says, "1." And the boss says, "1? Most of my staff make 20 or 30 sales a day. How much was the sale worth?" And the kid says, $300,334. Well, the boss is flabbergasted. He says, "How'd you manage that?" And the kid says, "Well, this man came in and I sold him a small fish hook, and then I sold him a medium fish hook, and then I sold him a really large hook, and finally I sold him a small fishing line, and then a medium grade rod and reel, and then a whole fishing outfit." And I asked him where he was going fishing, and he said down the coast. And so I said he'd probably need a boat, so I took him over to the boat department and I sold him that 20-foot schooner with the twin engines. And then he said his Volkswagen probably wouldn't be able to pull it, so I took him to the car department and I sold him a sport utility vehicle. So the boss was astonished, and he said, "You sold all that to a guy who came in for a fish hook?" And the kid says, "No, he came in to buy a box of tampons for his wife." And I said to him, "Your weekend's screwed, you might as well go fishing." Joe Bob here reminding you that the drive-in will never die.